Ois Gimel. V'hinei, Gimel HaLevim, Halolu, these three Levim, expressed earlier, Gershon, Krosum, Harari, or Yunoisin as a Mishkan b'Midbar. They would carry the Mishkan in the desert. What was the purpose? What was the intention of carrying the Oren? Is Hamidbar umokoim umoder yinikas achitzonim. The desert is the place, and it's the dwelling place in where the eiders, the klippos, nurture from. That is the midbar. Lochein eine godel sham tuo tzumachim. That's why no grain or growth grows in the midbar, because it's not a productive place. It's a place of chitzonim. Lochein hoyunoisim shom davke hamishkan. That's why specifically in the place of the midbar, where is the klippos, over there they were carrying the mishkan. And the reason is Membeis Masois, and they carried it 42 stops. They journeyed 42 times, and that corresponds neged Shem Mab. That corresponds to the name of 42 letters of the name of Hashem, which is in the Ana B'Choyach, which has 42 letters. The Ana B'Choyach, and the reason they did that is b'chdei lahachniya oisam, in order to subdue them, the chitzonim. And to remove the blackness that covers. So first they had to suppress them, the klippos, and then then there can be the revelation of godliness, that it should be able to be that connection with the ishi, with the Ein Sof, with the person doing the avodah, to be able to have that revelation from the level of Ishi. And they were mamshich gilu elakus. They drew down elakus. Hein also mi'hamaitzel baruch hu ba'atzilus, from the maitzil blessed be he into atzilus. And hein matzilus libya, and from atzilus libya. Shayidei his oirus shalahem, through their arousal, through the arousal of the traveling of the Yidden and the Midbar, and the Leviim, through their his oirus hoyim oirim ilmailo gamkein, they would arouse also from above. Sheyislabesh b'machshova da'ano emlech. That Hashem should dress up in that thought, I want to be a king. I know I'm the Chulu. V'ayim asher kosuv seiv divrei hamaschil eile pekudei hamishkan. V'hine yadua, behold it's known, the yesh oilom shono nefesh. We have the three components. There's the world, that's place, space. Shono, that's time, year, that's the time, space, time, and then you have the person, the soul, you have nefesh, which is the Rosh Tevis of Oshon. Olam Shona Nefesh. So basically, what we find in the world, Vimkein, it corresponds. Kol ma sheyesh ba'olam, whatever you have in the world means in the midbar. We just said they were going and they were traveling. So that was in the world, in the desert. So whatever there's in the world, yesh derech prat b'nefesh adam atzmei. In a way of specific, we find it in the soul himself. Basically, we have to find these avodah that we talk about, that the Yidden traveled in the journey in the world. You have to find in your own journey, in your own soul, the levels, those suppressing of the chitzonim and the three leviim, the Gershon Kosum Merori, in avodah sa'odom. Yidei ha'avodah b'nefesh, through the service in the soul, So in the future to come, that will be extended into the world. Which means, so what are we trying to say over here? The Hainu, that is, Derech Klal. Gimel Bchina is just like in the Mishkan. In the journeys, there were 3 levels. What traveled in the Mishkan? What was so in the Mishkan you had 3 levels. You had Klei HaMishkan. Those were the vessels, the menorah, the oren, that's the vessels that the shulchan that were inside. Those are the vessels of the Mishkan. Then you have the Karshei HaMishkan. Then you have the beams that made around, that's the wall, that's the beams of the Mishkan, the walls of the Mishkan, basically. And then you have Yiriyas HaMishkan, you have the covers of the Mishkan. Kach yesh bechinas elu b'nefesh adam. Likewise, in the person, you also have Klei HaMishkan, Karshe Mishkan, Yiriyas HaMishkan. What are they? The moicha liba v'kavda, the mind, the heart, and the liver, chulu, meaning those are the internal organs in the body. They are similar to the vessels that were in the Mishkan, which is Orein, the Kapoides, the Orein and the Kapoides. Then you have Vatsomis, you have the bones, the body. Those are the limbs. And those are the external vessels. Dugmas Karsha Mishkan. Those are compared to the beams of the Mishkan, the Kroshim of the Mishkan. And then you have the Oiru Bosor. You have the skin, you have the flesh. Those are the garments. They covered in the body. Oiru Bosor Talbisheni. You dress me with skin and flesh, and their root is from the level of makifim surrounding. This is like the curtains which went over the Mishkan, sheish, linen, vargamon, the purple wool, the tchoshim, those are the covers. So in the body, you have these 3 components. The internal organs, the bones, the kroshim, and then the skin and the flesh which is about him, which represents the level of the makifim, the yiriyos hamishkan. Benefesh odom, or benusach achra, maybe in a different version, or benefesh odom, so he says, gimel b'chinas eluheim. How do we say these 3 levels? And another way, it's oiros, v'kelim ulevushim. They're light, the kelim and levushim. Kibemoicha liba v'kavda, in the moyach lev and the kavod belubish nefesh ruach neshama. Over there is dressed up the part of the soul which is nefesh ruach neshama. Sheheim oiris. Those are the light. Zehu inyan orein u'menorachul. Then you have hatzomis ve'vorim. So they are Mishkan. So the Atzomis and the Vorim Achitzonim, those are the external ones. And also, when we talk about the Kroshim and the Mishkan, and Kelim, those are the Kelim. And then you have Oir, Ubosor, the skin and the flesh, Heim Levushim, those are the garments. And the same thing is with Yiriyos Mishkan. And these are all, it goes up in one together. No, they fit. Basically, that the oiris are dressed up in the inner kelim. So inner kelim, this way, the other way, but it's still the same idea. So you have either, as he says, it oiris kelim ulavushim, or you have it. The union of Kelim Pnimikim, Chitzonim, Karsha Mishkan, the vessels of the inside, and the Yiriyos. So now let's understand all these levels in the service of Hashem. Kihine Isa b'medrash. We find in the medrash. Ubezoyar Truma Daf Kuf Ayin Amud Aleph. Aposik Vasisa Sakroshim Lamishkon Atzei Shitim Oimdim. Hulu. So it says you should make them Atzei Shitim Oimdim. So it says that the Srofim is Oimdim Mimaloichul. It says the Srofim, they stand above. It brings down. What does it mean? Atzi shitim oimdim, make them oimdim. Like the pasuk says that Srofim oimdim milmaloi, that the Srofim stand beyond Hashem. That's what the Medrash connects the pasuk to make these shitim oimdim to the idea that the Srofim standing mimaloi. So what is the pirush oimdim? What is the meaning that they are standing? Well, derech Mamer Azal, Perigimul de Broches Dav Chobeis Amud Aleph, similar to the saying of Sage Aposik, V'adaitum levonecha chulu, Yoim asher amadeto lifnei Hashem lekacho b'cheru. So that you shall let your sons know the days that you stood before Hashem, your God, in Chayim. Upirshu, and what did they explain it? They're saying it, Ma lahalon be'ema v'yira, Afkan be'ema v'yira. So what does it mean that the day you stood before Hashem, that you have to, just like at the time when we got the Torah, it was all with awe, with fear, with all the trembling, because the revelations that took place at Sinai, Afkan, also today, when you learn Torah, has to be be'ema v'yira. So this is Yom Asher Amadeto. You have to remember the day that you stood by Chayrev, you stood with trembling and fear. You should always say so. The standing represents the idea of Ema V'yira, of fear and awe. So why is standing represent fear and awe? You're standing like a level of Ema V'yira is Mamer Azal Perik Zayin the Soita Daf Labatesu Medalef Eina Mido Elo Shtika. That when you stand, you're silence. That represents, I guess, the level of subjugation. When you're standing, Mido means Shtika. Shenemar quotes from the pasuk in Eiv, V'echalti ki lo yidaberu ki omdu lo onu oid. Pasuk in Eiv there, he says they didn't speak. And when they stood, they didn't answer anymore, the pasuk says. So you see, B'Yev, Simulamet based Zion. Asheshtika zu ibchinas habitl. So this silence is the level of bitl, subjugation. The hachmana, the hainu, machmas ema v'yira, because the person is with awe and fear. So you're standing and you're quiet from all your desires. You don't want, you lose yourself. You don't have any own will because you're standing now in bittul, in silence, in the awe and the fear. That is the idea of the subjugation of your wishes. I want nothing in the besides you, I want nothing in the land. The Hainu, that is, at least he should not have another want which is not for Hashem. Why say at least? It means not to ask you to have a big rotzin to Hashem. That's already a high madrega. But we're asking you that you don't have another rotzin which is not to Hashem Yisbarach. So at least you have that. And that is the beginning of the Avodah, is the level of this level of bittul, is to have that subjugation. With this, Aaron comes to the Kodesh, which means with this, if you want to come to the Kodesh, you want to come to the Avodah, you want to connect to Hashem, the Hainu Ascholas Avodah Ubebchinas Yira Tato. That is the beginning of the Avodah, is the lower level of Yira. And from this, Yira is the Amidah. So when we say Oindim, that they're standing, that means the level of Bittul. So we're talking about the Avodah of the ideas of the Mishkan. And one of the things of the Mishkan is the Atzei Shitim Oimdim. So that is the level, the first is the level of Bittul. Ayin Inyan Oimdim, Zohar Chele Gimel Reish Parshas Vazchanon, Ube Parshas Tetzaveh, Daf Kuf Pei Gimel Lamed Aleph. So that's the beginning. However, after that's only the start. But after you have first the level of Oimdim, then there's V'nesati L'cha Mahalchim Bein HaOimdim. Then you start to walk amongst those who stand. So that's the Yabikrish B'hainu B'chinas Hayiriyas Shebe Mishkan. That's the covers what that comes on the Mishkan. Shahoyu al Hakroshim Oimdim. They were on top of the Kroshim that were standing. You have the Yiriyas. Yiriyas are Tcheles V'Argoma. What is Tcheles? Tcheles is Loshin Kloitz HaNefesh. Tcheles is the language of expiration of the soul. B'chinas Ava. So then you have the level of Ava. And then V'Eiris Tchoshim Targum Onkelos Sasgoino. Shesos Begavnin Harbe. That it rejoiced with its many colors. It was a very colorful type of creature. So that's the Tchoshim. Kedisa Perik Beis the Shabbos Tavchov Chesom Adalef. What is, it says sos, but it also means sheshesh. It has 6 colors. Behind Shisho Gavnim, that's 6 colors. The 6th color is Shem Shesh Midas Elyonos. Those are the 6 supreme midos. They come after the Atzei Shitim Oimdim. After there is the Amida, the level of Bittul, you get the level of the Shisha Midas Elyonim. And then you start to walk by Naimdim. So you start with the Mishkan, with the Atzei Shitim Oimdim, and then you move on to the Yiriyas, to the level of Klois HaNefesh and the level of the Shisha Midas. So that's the two, the Kroshim and the Yiriyas. But the Order and the Kapoides and Kelim Hapnimi, they are the inner vessels. The Torah was lying in the Oren. The Iraisa is Mechocho Nafkis. So the Torah comes from the level of Chochmah. And in Chochmah, where is the revelation of the Ein Sof in an inner way that comes in the Chochmah? The Hainu she'oirin Sof Baruch Hu, who has Sovev Kol Almi. We're talking about the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, which is Sovev Kol Almi. Lo yuchal liyas ha'oir v'agilui b'bchinas oir pnimi, and it cannot be that light and revelation in an inner way, ki im rak b'chinas chochma levad, only in the level of chochma. Basically, that in chochma is the level of Sovev Kol Almi. So that's the pnimi, the kelim is the level of Sovev Kol Almi. In the Orein, it was covered. You had the cover, you had the kapoides. Where was the revelation? Says the Torah is light. The Torah is chesed. The Torah is chesed. is on the tongue. The big gilui. See, uksiv, and there's further written. Miminoi eish dos. So that's the level of Tzemiklam. So that's the level of Chokhmah. The Chokhmah is Beriru. Everything is sorted out in the Chokhmah. Shalidei HaTorah Nasu Kol HaBerurim. That all the Berurim take place through the Torah. The mitzvahs say, mitzvahs loisasei, in the positive and the prohibition. Levarer HaToivu LaHaloisei Alidei mitzvahs asei, to sort out the good and to elevate it through the positive mitzvah. Levayer Hara Alidei mitzvahs loisasei, and to remove and destroy the ra through the prohibition. The iker habirur huwa idei kelim hapnimim davke. The main sorting out is through the inner vessels. Just like we're talking about Torah, so now we're saying in the base Hamikdash, it's the main sorting out is through the inner vessel. The Hainu Hamizbeach, just like by Torah is Mavar, same thing is the Kelim Apnimim in the Beis Hamikdash were the ones that sorted everything out. The Hainu Hamizbeach, such as the Mizbeach Shoy Makrivim Olav HaKarbonis. You would bring the Karbonis on the Mizbeach, and the leftovers was pushed outside. And this is what the Pasuk says, as Hadesh, and the ashes you remove. You took it to the outside. That is to give place for the nurturing of the chitzonim from the leftovers. Even in the psoilus itself, there's still a sorting out going on over there also. First, you raise the deshen. Elsewhere, it's explained I did through the deshen. So that's the external that was removed. That is the psoilus. But the inner of the Ripach Netzutzim, that was elevated, and that went up with the korban. That was sorted out, and that was included in godliness. And therefore, Hoyu B'nei Kohos Noisim as Hakelim Apnimim. It was the B'nei Kohos who would carry the inner vessels. Shuhu Meloshin Veloy Yikhas Amim. Kohos is that he will gather the people together, which is Loshin Asifa. It's a language of gathering. Because of Rashi, as Rashi says, V'hainu Shaboy Val Yodoi, through him and in him and through him, through Kohos, Nesofim Umiskansim Horapach Netzutzes. They're gathered and they're collected, the 288 sparks, the Chol to be included above. The Loche Nikra Yad Harama from the three yodis, that's called the Yad Harama, the hand that raises, because Shemerim Umakbiya Netzutzim Milmato Mato Ad Lamaila, because he raises and the sparks from below till high. Came by Adam, and likewise by the person, Iker Habirur, who became Pnimi. The main sorting out is in the inner vessels. Moicha, the libdo, the kavda. The brain and the heart and the liver. Sha'maichel nichnas beats tumka. The food enters the stomach. In his batter shom, and it's sorted out there. The leftover is pushed to the outside. And the chosen, the better, goes up to the heart, to the liver and the heart. The nase shom dam, and over there it becomes blood. Umehalev oila lemoyach, and from the heart it goes up to the brain. The nase is shom chayis lenefesh, and over there it becomes a energy for the soul. So the bad gets removed, the better one goes up to the liver and the heart, becomes blood, and then it goes up to become to the mind. So what happens when a person davens and he learns with the power of this energy, that vitality is included in godliness. Kitzer, talking about it was the three families that were carrying the Mishkan. We only learned right now about Kahos, but we're learning about the different parts of the body, the different parts in the Mishkan that were traveling in the desert in order to subdue it. There is also the level of the Mishkan in the soul. We have Evorim Hapnimim, the inner organs, the mind, the heart, and the liver. Dugmas Klei HaMishkan. They are similar to the vessels of the Mishkan. You have the bones, they are like the beams of the Mishkan. And you have Oirubosar, the flesh and the skin, that is Dugmas Yiriyas, that is similar to the curtains. The idea of the bones is Bechinas Kroshim. That's the idea of the beams that are standing Bechinas Yirobitl. That's the level of awe and subjugation. The Yiriyas is the level of Bechinas Mahalchim Benaim. That's walking amongst those standing. Moicha Liba, and the Moicha is the lev. That's the study of Torah. Okay, we'll leave it over here. We'll continue.